In the crosshairs, Washington grapples with the reality of direct strikes between Iran and Israel. Just hours before Israel carried out a drone strike against Iran on Thursday night, Israeli officials alerted their counterparts in Washington, signaling an imminent attack without divulging specific details. According to a senior U.S. official, this advance notice, while appreciated, was not the news the Biden administration had hoped for. Throughout the preceding days, U.S. officials had been actively discouraging Israel from retaliating against Iran's recent unprecedented assault, which involved the launch of hundreds of missiles and drones from Iranian territory aimed at Israel. The concern among U.S. officials was palpable, fearing that any Israeli response could trigger a dangerous cycle of escalating violence between the two nations, potentially spiraling out of control. Despite receiving advance warning about Israel's Thursday strike, the U.S. did not endorse it, as stated by the senior official. The series of tit-for-tat attacks over the past week has raised alarms within the U.S. administration, signaling a worrying breach in the once existing barrier between Israel and Iran. This breach has ushered in a new era of direct confrontation, characterized by heightened volatility and unpredictability, posing significant challenges for diplomatic efforts and regional stability. The upcoming response from Iran will serve as a critical litmus test, determining whether the recent events signify the onset of direct conflict between the two nations, or if there's room for de-escalation. Encouragingly, there are indications that tensions may be easing. U.S. intelligence assessments have consistently suggested that neither Iran nor Israel desires an all-out war. Israel's retaliatory strike seems to have been carefully calibrated, targeting a solitary military installation roughly 275 miles away from Tehran, while deliberately sparing two nearby facilities crucial to Iran's nuclear program. A source with regional intelligence knowledge regarding Iran's reaction to the attack conveyed to CNN that the era of direct state-to-state strikes between Iran and Israel might have concluded. According to this source, Iran is not anticipated to retaliate. The current signs don't point towards further escalation, emphasized the senior U.S. official, albeit cautioning about the fluidity of the situation. However, the prevailing indicators suggest a willingness to step back. Nonetheless, U.S. officials remain acutely cognizant that following the unprecedented exchange of direct hostilities, predicting Iran's responses to perceived provocations may be more challenging than ever. Iranian media reported explosions in the vicinity of an airbase and the activation of air defense systems in Isfahan and Tabriz, coinciding with information from a U.S. official who informed CNN about Israel's involvement in a strike on Iran. Additionally, Syrian state media confirmed an Israeli attack in southern Syria, an area where Iran maintains a direct presence and supports multiple armed groups. Last week's significant assault by Iran on Israel marked a historic departure, being the first instance of Iran launching attacks directly from its own territory towards Israel. This event shattered long-held assumptions by the U.S. and its allies regarding the extent of Iranian aggression and its readiness to directly target Israel. Public statements from Iranian officials reflect a shift in Iran's stance towards Israel. Hossein Salami, the top commander of Iran's powerful Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, announced on Iranian state TV after the weekend attack that Iran has adopted a new approach. He stated, "We have decided to create a new equation, and that is if from now on the Zionist regime attacks our interests, assets, personalities, and citizens, at any point we will attack against them from the Islamic Republic of Iran." Furthermore, just before Israel's retaliatory strike on Thursday night, Iran's foreign minister warned in an interview with CNN's Aaron Burnett that any Israeli retaliation would prompt an immediate and maximum-level response from Iran. CIA Director Bill Burns expressed grave concerns about the current situation in the Middle East during a speech at the George W. Bush Presidential Center in Dallas on Thursday, stating, "I have rarely seen a moment, in the Middle East, more combustible than it is today." A protracted and covert conflict has been brewing in the shadows for some time. For former U.S. officials with deep insights into the Iranian regime, Iran's recent direct assault comes as no surprise, considering its inability to counter Israel effectively in a prolonged shadow war that has claimed the lives of several Iranian commanders. Israel has executed numerous successful strikes targeting Iranian military figures across various regions, including operations conducted within Iran's own borders. Then, on April 1st, an Israeli attack on what Iran alleges was an embassy in Syria resulted in the deaths of 7 officials, including 2 high-ranking Iranian commanders. Retired General Frank McKenzie, former commander of U.S. Central Command, highlighted the mounting pressure within the Iranian system, stating, "Israel kills our people and doesn't pay a price? I think that is a significant driver." Analysts and experts echoed this sentiment, suggesting that the April 1st incident in Syria served as an escalation in an already precarious situation, compelling Iranian leaders to respond more forcefully than usual to deter future Israeli actions. One of the slain commanders, Mohammad Reza Zahidi, played a crucial role in connecting Iran with Lebanese Hezbollah, identified as Iran's largest and most capable proxy, according to Jonathan Panikoff, a former senior intelligence analyst specializing in the region. Zahidi's elimination was deemed significant, underscoring the impact of the targeted killings. In the lead-up to Iran's missile and drone assault on Israel, U.S. officials initially anticipated a response through Iran's network of proxy fighters, a pattern observed in previous instances. However, as indications emerged of Iran moving missiles within its own territory, Washington underwent a frenzied reassessment of Iran's likely course of action, according to current and former American officials. The recent shift in Iran's stance prompts speculation about whether this represents a lasting adjustment in the strategic outlook of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei. Karim Sajidpour, a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, raised questions about whether Khamenei, aged 84, has revised his long-standing doctrine of avoiding direct confrontation with Israel. Alternatively, he pondered whether this shift could offer a glimpse into how a future Iranian government, possibly led by the military post-Khamenei, might behave. An apt comparison to the current scenario is the aftermath of the U.S. strike that targeted top Iranian commander Qasem Soleimani in January 2020. Following Soleimani's death, Iran, rather than one of its proxies, launched numerous short-range ballistic missiles at a U.S. military base in Iraq within days. This move was also regarded as unprecedented and carried the risk of escalating tensions in the region to a more perilous level. During that episode, Iran provided enough warning of its intentions, allowing U.S. troops to seek shelter in bunkers to mitigate casualties. While no American lives were lost, dozens sustained traumatic brain injuries. After the attack, Iran publicly declared the matter resolved. At the time, the U.S., under then-President Donald Trump, opted against further retaliation. Assessing the true impact of Iran's recent attack has led to varied interpretations among analysts and officials. Following the assault on Israel, some analysts speculated that Iran may have deliberately aimed to minimize casualties to prevent an escalation of hostilities. However, Pentagon officials vehemently dismissed this notion. On Saturday, Israel and its allies managed to intercept and destroy 99% of the Iranian projectiles before they could cause significant damage. The minimal harm inflicted in Israel, coupled with Iran's public and diplomatic signals preceding the attack, has fueled theories in Washington about Iran's intentions. Despite these theories, administration officials, along with retired General McKenzie and other former officials, rejected the notion that Iran held back in its assault. The sheer magnitude of the attack suggests Iran's intent to cause harm to Israelis, according to officials and analysts. In many respects, Saturday's events underscored the successful execution of years of military planning, tailored precisely for scenarios like this hypothetical assault. However, effectively defending against such a multifaceted threat is a complex and challenging endeavor. While Israel and its allies ultimately achieved success, it was by no means a guaranteed outcome, assert current and former officials. Retired General McKenzie highlighted Iran's utilization of its most potent weapons, including ballistic missiles, drones, and land attack cruise missiles, in what he described as a maximum effort. He emphasized that Iran's actions were not merely signaling but a genuine display of military force. Now, attention turns to Iran's response to the Israeli counterstrike, with officials warning of profound risks ahead. There's a heightened risk now that Israel and Iran are positioned higher on the escalatory ladder for any future conflict, cautioned Panikov. This escalation raises the stakes and increases the likelihood of more robust and aggressive actions from both sides.